Behind the explosive matches, the larger-than-life characters, and the constant roar of the crowd, professional wrestling has always appeared to be a world built on strength, confidence, and resilience. Every entrance, every victory, and every storyline reinforces the idea that these performers are nearly indestructible. But beyond the lights and scripted rivalries, there exists a very different reality. One where physical pain, emotional pressure, financial instability, and personal struggles quietly build over time. For some wrestlers, those struggles became overwhelming, leading to tragic endings that many fans either never knew about or never fully understood. In this video, we move through 17 such stories, arranged from the more commonly discussed to the most unusual and unsettling cases, each one revealing a deeper layer of the wrestling world that rarely gets attention. As we begin, it becomes clear that no single path leads to these outcomes. Some of these wrestlers experienced rapid rises followed by equally fast declines, where the loss of identity after leaving the spotlight became difficult to cope with. Others carried long-term physical injuries, including repeated head trauma, that may have affected their mental health in ways that were not fully understood at the time. In many cases, substance use, financial pressure, and broken relationships added even more weight. What makes these stories especially striking is how often the signs remained hidden behind confident personas, energetic performances, and the expectation to always appear strong no matter what was happening internally. Moving further into these accounts, another pattern begins to emerge: the lack of consistent support systems in an industry that demands constant performance but rarely slows down for recovery. Wrestlers often travel endlessly, live with unstable schedules, and face uncertainty about their future once their careers begin to fade. For some, the transition away from wrestling proved just as challenging as the career itself. These stories are not just about individual struggles, but about an environment where pressure quietly accumulates over time, reminding us that even in a world built on spectacle and resilience, there are deeply human vulnerabilities that cannot always be seen from the outside. 1. Sean O'Haire's story begins with promise. He had the look, the presence, and the kind of aura that made him stand out immediately. During his time in WCW, he achieved notable success, including multiple tag team championships, and when he transitioned into WWE, it seemed like the next logical step towards something even bigger. Being paired with a legend gave him credibility, and for a brief moment, it felt like everything was aligning. But wrestling careers are fragile. Once that support system disappeared, his direction faded. Injuries and setbacks slowed him down, and gradually, he slipped out of the spotlight. Outside the ring, he searched for purpose through other combat sports, but the sense of stability never truly returned. His death in 2014 was a stark reminder that even those who appear strong and capable can be carrying silent burdens that go unnoticed until it is too late. 2. Ludwig Borga represented a different kind of wrestling archetype, the intimidating foreign powerhouse. His early push in WWE suggested that the company had high expectations for him. Defeating a protected star early on positioned him as someone to watch, but momentum in wrestling is unpredictable. His career never reached the heights many anticipated. After leaving WWE, he explored multiple paths, from wrestling internationally to politics, even becoming a member of parliament. On the surface, that transition might seem impressive, almost like a successful reinvention. But beneath it all were struggles with health issues, substance use, and mental health challenges. His story feels particularly heavy because it spans so many different phases of life, yet none seem to bring lasting peace. 3. Chris Kenyon's journey is one of talent mixed with inner conflict. Known for his creativity and in-ring ability, he earned respect among peers and fans alike. His career showed steady growth, and he proved himself capable of working alongside top names. However, the wrestling industry has often been a difficult place for those who feel different or misunderstood. Kenyon faced personal struggles related to identity and mental health, compounded by professional frustrations. His death carried a deep emotional weight, especially as conversations later emerged about the pressures he endured behind the scenes. His story stands as a reminder of how important acceptance and support can be in environments that are often unforgiving. 4. Crash Holly brought something unique to wrestling: comedy mixed with confidence. Despite his smaller stature, he embraced a larger-than-life persona that made him incredibly entertaining. Fans remember him for his energy and humor, but behind that character was a man dealing with personal difficulties. His career achievements, particularly in the hardcore division, showed that he was more than just comic relief. Still, life outside wrestling became increasingly challenging. His passing at a young age left many reflecting on how someone who brought so much joy to audiences could be facing such heavy struggles privately. 5. Brian Christopher lived under the shadow of a legendary father, but he carved out his own identity through charisma and entertainment. As part of a popular faction, he became one of the most recognizable faces of his era. However, fame does not erase personal issues. Legal troubles and life instability followed him, and his death while in custody added another layer of tragedy. It was not just the loss of a performer, but the end of a complicated life filled with both highs and deep struggles. 8. Eddie Graham's influence extended beyond the ring. As a promoter and creative mind, he helped shape an entire era of wrestling. His contributions were significant, but success in one area does not guarantee stability in another. Financial problems and personal pressures built up over time. His death highlights the fact that even those who control the industry behind the scenes are not immune to its pressures. 9. Mike Graham carried the legacy of his father, but also the burden that came with it. Taking over a wrestling territory during a time of industry change was an enormous challenge. The decline of the territorial system made his role even more difficult. Although he remained involved in wrestling, the weight of past losses and ongoing struggles never fully disappeared. His story feels like an extension of a tragedy that began years earlier. 10. Mike Awesome was known for his physical dominance and athletic ability. In certain promotions, he was presented as a major force, capable of delivering intense and memorable matches. However, inconsistent booking and missed opportunities prevented him from reaching his full potential. After leaving wrestling, personal issues began to take center stage. His death left fans wondering what could have been if circumstances had been different. 11. Andre Baker's story is less known but deeply impactful. As a promoter and trainer, he contributed to the development of future wrestling talent. His influence behind the scenes helped shape the careers of others, even if his own name was not widely recognized. The lack of widespread understanding about his struggles makes his story feel even more distant and mysterious, adding to its emotional weight. 12. Tojo Yamamoto's career reflects an earlier era of wrestling, where characters were shaped by cultural tensions and audience reactions. He was both a performer and a mentor, leaving a lasting impact on those he trained. In his later years, declining health created a difficult situation. His story reminds us that the physical toll of wrestling does not always end when the career does. 13. Larry Sweeney represented a throwback style that many fans appreciated. His charisma and personality made him stand out, particularly in independent promotions. Despite his talent, he never reached the mainstream success many believed he deserved. His death was a shock, especially because his on-screen presence suggested confidence and control. 14. Adam Firestorm's journey highlights the struggles of independent wrestlers. Without the financial security or recognition of major promotions, many rely on passion alone to sustain their careers. Years of physical strain, including possible head injuries, may have contributed to his struggles. His story raises important questions about the long-term effects of wrestling on the body and mind. 15. Yukon Eric's story is one of the oldest and most haunting. Wrestling in an era without modern protections or financial stability, he experienced both fame and hardship. His life after wrestling was marked by personal and financial difficulties. The circumstances of his death, tied to a place of personal significance, add a deeply emotional and almost symbolic layer to his story. 16. The Renegade's rise and fall happened quickly. Introduced with high expectations, he was pushed into the spotlight almost overnight, but when the audience rejected the character, the decline was just as rapid. Being built up and then discarded so quickly can have a lasting psychological impact. His story reflects the dangers of sudden fame without long-term support. 17. Chris Benoit's case remains one of the most disturbing and complex in wrestling history. His in-ring ability earned him immense respect, and for years, he was seen as one of the best technical performers in the industry. But the events surrounding his death revealed a far darker reality. The combination of mental health issues, personal struggles, and possible neurological damage created a situation that shocked the world. His story is often discussed not only as a tragedy, but as a turning point that forced the industry to confront issues it had long ignored. These 17 stories, each different in detail yet similar in emotional weight, reveal a side of wrestling that rarely appears on screen. They show that behind every character is a real person, facing real challenges. The applause fades, the lights dim, and what remains is the reality of life outside the ring, a reality that for some became too heavy to carry.